You may be seated, please.
Gentlemen, you can remove your caps. And you'll be able to keep them off until told to put them back on again. Our dear Father in heaven, as we meet this evening for this graduation exercise, we wish to thank Thee for the blessings that Thou hast given us. We are thankful for the knowledge that we have received while attending Utah Technical College, and for the instructors that have taught us the things that will be of benefit to us in our lives. We are thankful that we live in a land that gives us the opportunity to attend various colleges and universities of our choice to continue our education. We pray that the things that we have learned in school will truly be beneficial to us as we either go on to our various jobs or as we go forth and continue in school. We ask Thee to bless the instructors who have dedicated their lives to teaching so that individuals can make it possible to better themselves. We ask Thee to bless the people who will be speaking to us this evening, that their minds and thoughts will be clear for the messages they wish to give us. We pray for Thy Spirit to be with us always, to guide us and direct us in the things that would be pleasing in Thy sight. And we say these things humbly, and in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
The presentation of colors will be by the United States Marine Corps India Company. Would the audience please rise for our flag? Would you follow me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the audience please be seated?
Candidates for graduation, members of our governing boards, members of the Utah Technical College Advisory Council, honored guests, families, and friends, it is my pleasure, on behalf of the graduating students, the college faculty and staff, to greet you this evening and welcome you to these graduation activities. We are honored tonight to have with us on the stand a distinguished group of individuals, and I'd like to introduce them to you at this particular time. We will ask them to stand as their names are called. We'd appreciate it if you would hold your applause until invited to do otherwise, and then we will give them a rousing welcome. Larry R. Christensen, Dean of Students, Utah Technical College. Dr. W. Dean Belknap, Chairman, Utah State Board for Vocational Education. Burton A. Talmadge, Vice President for Business Affairs. Mrs. Helen B. Yore, Chairman, Salt Lake County Commission on Youth. Dr. Walter D. Talbot, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Kenneth McFarland, our graduation speaker, Dr. R.H. Hansen, Vice President for Instruction, Senator Warren E. Pugh, Chairman of the Board, Cummings Intermountain Diesel Sales Company, Mrs. Florence R. Malmquist, Chairman, Utah Technical College Advisory Council, Ronald B. Osborne, Student, Marketing, Charles W. Little, Student, Business Management, Scott Brems, Student, Heavy Duty Mechanics. If you'd like to welcome that group, I'd appreciate it. Regent D. Omer Butters, Member, Utah State Board of Regents. Mrs. Joan Burnside, Member, Utah State Board for Vocational Education. Mrs. Lila B. Bjorklund, Member, Utah State Board for Vocational Education. Mr. Larry Chaston, Assistant Director of Institutional Research, Utah System of Higher Education. Dr. Hardin R. Eyring, Assistant Commissioner and Director of Planning, Utah System of Higher Education. Mr. James R. Snurl, Dean of Technical Occupations and General Education. Mrs. Jean K. Larson, Dean of Health and Business Occupations. Mr. Max S. Lowe, Dean of the Skills Center and the Pre-Technical Programs. Michelle Duckworth, Student, Business Management. Margaret Nelson, Instructor, Health Occupations. David Ballard, Instructor, General Education. Sally Scholmeyer, Student, Marketing. Sherry Matthews, Student, Marketing and Business Management. Karen Baker, Student, Secretarial. Mrs. Loretta Walker, Instructor, General Education. Mrs. Ann Erickson, Instructor, General Education. Mrs. Verlaine Zito, Division Head, Metal Trades. Mr. Chris Wentworth, Utah Technical College Student Body President. Dr. J.J. Campbell, Associate Superintendent of Public Instruction. If you would like to welcome that group, please. These commencement exercises officially complete 30 years since the founding of this college in 1948. Created by the state legislature as Salt Lake Area Vocational School, the institution existed totally as at our downtown campus. In 1959, the name of the institution was changed to Salt Lake Trade Technical Institute. And again in 1967, the school's title was again changed to Utah Technical College at Salt Lake. At that time, the initial move was made to the main campus at 4600 South and Redwood Road. From a beginning enrollment in 1948 of less than 700 students, we cater now to an enrollment of in excess of 7,500 men and women of all ages. They're engaged in 1- and 2-year programs. We are, in fact, the 4th largest public-supported 2-year college, and we are also larger than the college at Cedar City entitled the Southern Utah State College. Now, while Utah Tech offers many 2-year programs which are transferable to other educational institutions, the main thrust of our college is terminal, that is, practical higher education, and that's spelled H-I-R-E. And you students certainly can attest to that. During this school year, 1,009 students have qualified to receive certificates, diplomas, and degrees from Utah Technical College at Salt Lake. Now, this number includes 140 students who graduated during our summer commencement exercises last August, and 82 students who graduated from our practical nursing programs in last September and this last March. Now, many of the students completed their programs at the college at the end of the fall quarter, and others completed their programs at the end of the winter quarter this past March. And many of them have been on the job for several months. They're working throughout the western portion of the United States, and were unable to return to our graduation exercises in many instances. 520 students will receive their certificates, diplomas, and degrees tonight. We have a very capable and competent faculty at the college, and they're certainly dedicated to their assignments. In the process of designating an outstanding teacher this year, The student body selected 6 finalists for the honor, and they were recognized recently at a student body awards banquet. The committee was unable to reach a consensus concerning the outstanding teacher for the year. Consequently, they selected 2 instructors to receive the Outstanding Teacher Award, and they are Mr. Davis Ballard, a general education instructor, and Mrs. Margaret Nelson, a nursing instructor. Dave and Margaret, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Traditionally, post-secondary education has been expected to perform 2 roles. 1, to produce a broadly educated person who understands the world and one's relationship to that world. And 2, to prepare a person for life's work by providing a marketable skill. Now, I think we all agree that both of these roles are very important. Universities seem to advocate that their responsibility is to teach individuals how to think and provide students with a broad general education. Vocational education, on the other hand, advocates providing skilled training and only the supportive general education needed to perform the task. Perhaps there is a need for a compromise in both areas. It's my opinion that a major thrust of the total system of education should be to prepare students for their life's work. I firmly believe that students should be steered into studies that will lead to employment. Obviously, I don't think this should be the only thrust. We recognize that there is more in life than work, but we recognize, too, that there is truly no good life without a good job. The United States is a job-oriented society, and without a job, you're a nobody. The work ethic has made America great, and I personally feel a strong commitment to preserve and revitalize it among the younger generation. I'm confident that all of us want to achieve success in our lives. We want our families, our friends, and our associates to look upon us with pride and admire our accomplishments. It's been fun for me to counsel with students and suggest a formula that will help assure their success. And in doing this, I frequently use an example from Paul Dunn's book entitled Anxiously Engaged. He tells about a retired business executive friend of his who was asked the secret of his great success. And he replied that it could all be summed up in 3 words: and then some. I discovered at an early age, he said, that most of the differences between average people and top people can be explained in those 3 words. The top people do what is expected of them, and then some. They are thoughtful and considerate of others, and then some. They meet their obligations and responsibilities fairly and squarely, and then some. They are good friends to their friends, and then some. And they can be counted on in an emergency. And so, when you do what you've contracted to do, and then some, then your employer will pay you in full, and then some. That's an excellent idea. I sincerely hope all of you graduates will subscribe to it. As an educator, I strongly admonish everyone to continue their education, since education is a lifelong process. Be proud of what you're doing and attempt to excel in your craftsmanship. Success is achieved through planning, work, and determinations. And if you work for a man, in heaven's name, work for him. Speak well of him and the company he represents. If you must growl, condemn, and eternally find fault, resign your position. And when you're on the outside, then you may damn till your heart's content. But as long as you're part of the company, do not condemn it. If you do, the first high wind that comes along will blow you away, and probably you'll never know the reason why. Remember, an ounce of loyalty is worth a pound of cleverness. And those choice thoughts came from the renowned writer Elbert Hubbard. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of this distinguished group of graduates, it's again my pleasure to welcome you to these graduation exercises. We sincerely hope you enjoy them. The program will now continue as it's printed. Thank you very much.
President Nelson, honored guests, faculty, parents, and perhaps most important of all, graduates, for that is the purpose of each of our meeting here this evening. As friends and family ask me upon what subject I was to be speaking this evening, well, I would simply tell them pearls. I'm going to be speaking about pearls. And I received a lot of strange looks because of that reply. And yet I had two reasons for saying this. The first reason is that I wanted to keep it a surprise and not to tell them too much about my subject. And the second reason is that I didn't want to tell a lie because I am going to be speaking about pearls this evening. Pearls are priceless. In fact, they've been highly esteemed since the beginning of time. In fact, one person has said that they are the richest of all merchandise. In ancient Rome, only certain groups of certain people of certain rank were allowed to wear pearls. So you might ask yourself, where is their great worth found? Pearls are created in a unique manner. It all begins with a small animal called a mollusk. Okay, a mollusk lives either on the land or in the water, fresh or salt water. And they come in different varieties, such as snails and slugs and clams, squids, and oysters. Mollusks have about them a unique ability to be able to protect themselves by creating a shell around their body, their soft body. They're all blessed with an organ from birth called a mantle. Okay, and this mantle secretes a type of a fluid which hardens and forms the shell. This fluid is called nacre. Frequently, a small grain of sand will become embedded between the shell of the mollusk and the mollusk's body. And this causes irritation to the mollusk. It's, well, the same type of a feeling you might have experienced when you're walking along and a small grain of sand finds its way between your shoe and your foot. And for you to eliminate that irritation, all you do is take your shoe off and dump the pebble out and put your shoe back on. And yet it's not so easy for the mollusk. He can't simply take his shell off and dump the pebble out and put his shell back on. And so instead, the mollusk continues to do that shell building process, and he secretes continued layers of nacre around that grain of sand until finally it becomes smooth, and thus is born a natural pearl. In the 13th century, over in China, a man named Yi Jingyang, well, he decided he wasn't going to wait around for nature to create him some pearls because he knew the value of pearls and he wanted some pearls. And so he decided that he would artificially implant a small object or a grain of sand between the shell of the mollusk and the mollusk, and thus once again causing that irritation to the mollusk and starting that pearl building process. And so thus was born a cultured pearl. Human beings are also priceless because of that great potential that lies within every one of us. And yet, the elements of our physical body are only worth a couple dollars. And so you ask yourself, where is our worth found? As I studied on pearls in the Encyclopedia Britannica, I learned that human beings and pearls have very much in common. And following the principle of supply and demand, it would be agreed that a single grain of sand is worthless because of the overabundance of sand in the world today. And also following the principle of supply and demand, it would be agreed by many that human beings, minus that great potential, are also worthless because of our abundance. Sand to the mollusk is many times only viewed as an irritation. And people to society are also many times only viewed as an irritation. Once again, for the mollusk to eliminate that irritation, he simply continues that shell building process and secretes layers of nacre around that grain of sand, making a smooth surface, and then he forgets about that grain of sand. And yet it's not so easy for society to do the same. society can't simply take those human beings that are causing that irritation and form a shell around them and then forget about them. And so they choose other means of eliminating that irritation. An unknown author once said that the only thing more costly than education is ignorance. And so society instead chooses education to eliminate that irritation. As I mentioned, there are two types of pearls, the natural pearl and the cultured pearl. Natural pearls are created by accident, and there's no external source helping in that creation. Many great men and women in the world were created, so to speak, in that same manner, without an external source. It was all done by individual effort. Men such as Socrates and Leonardo da Vinci and many others, you might refer to these men as natural pearls. Cultured pearls, on the other hand, were planned, and they were created with the help of an external source. In fact, most of us here in the audience today could be considered cultured pearls, because each of us have found our value through an external source, as well as our individual effort. And those of us who are sitting here today as graduates, that external source has been Utah Technical College. Pearls and people have many similarities. Sand could be compared to the physical elements of our body. The mollusk could be compared to Utah Technical College. And I'm sure that President Nelson has never had his college referred to before as a mollusk. Nacre, that forms around that grain of sand, would be compared to education, the layers of education that form around us as individuals. And pearls could be compared to people, those people whom have found their value through education. So all of us today are somewhere in the process of becoming pearls of great price. Everything comes in varieties today. As I mentioned, there are varieties of mollusks. There are the slugs, the snails, the squids, the clams, and the oysters. And oysters have proven to be the most suitable for creating pearls. There are also varieties of colleges in the world today. There are the U of U's, the USU's, and the BYU's, and the UTC's. And for us graduates today, Utah Technical College has proven to be the most suitable for creating our value at this time. Utah Technical College means to all people many different things. But to all people it means opportunity, opportunity to pearl. Cervantes said, "Where one door shuts, another opens." Pearls are priceless, and yet their price can be increased when they are set in silver or in the proper jewelry setting. And many pearls are unique and they stand out in a crowd. And these pearls find their greatest value when they are placed on a ring individually. And yet other pearls are not quite so unique. Many of their qualities are similar to the qualities of other pearls. And these pearls find their greatest value when they are placed on a string as a necklace. People are also priceless. Many people are unique and they stand out in a crowd. And these people find their greatest worth as leaders. And yet other people are not quite so unique. Many of their qualities are similar to the qualities of other people. And they find their greatest value when they work together as a team. In the atmosphere of synergism, in which Webster said, is the simultaneous action of separate agencies working together have greater effect than the sum of their individual effects. And so, as Cervantes said, where one door shuts, another opens. So now, because we're graduating, one of those doors has shut. And yet there are many other doors that lie open. So that's our goal now, is to search out that door that lies open, that proper door, and to find our proper setting that's going to increase our worth. So perhaps the only thing separating people from pearls are a couple letters in the alphabet. Thank you.
When you are a happy friend of mine, and all your skies are blue, tell me your luck, your fortune fine, and let me laugh with you. Tell me the hopes that spur you on, the deeds you mean to do, the gold you've struck, the fame you've won, and let me joy with you. When you are sad and heart a cold, and all your skies are dark, tell me the dreams that marked your hold, the shafts that missed the mark. Am I not yours for weal or woe? How else can friends prove true? Tell me what breaks and brings you low, and let me stand with you. So when the night falls tremulous, when the last lamp burns low, and one of us or both of us the long, lone road must go, look with your dear old eyes in mine, give me a handshake true, whatever fate our souls await, let me be there, let me be there, there with you.
Okay, Lane.
Within my heart there is a feeling forever tender and strong for you, my friend, who stand beside me and urge my footsteps along. Should fortune fail and shadows fall, your friendly hand will guide me. Though time may part the paths we wander, this feeling still will remain. And when at last we go unto our journey's end, we'll meet again, my friend.
Okay, Rick.
All right, thank you. I'm happy tonight to present a Distinguished Service Award from this college to one of education's leading ladies, Helen B. Ure. Mrs. Ure was formerly chairman of the Utah State Board of Education, the first woman to hold that office. Through her efforts, Utah Tech continued to grow and expand, leading this college to its present status among Utah's colleges and universities. Mrs. Ure currently is chairman of the Salt Lake County Commission on Youth, vice chairman of the Salt Lake City County Board of Health, and a member of a state committee to study alternatives for troubled youth. Among many honors presented to her over what seems to be a lifetime of service to others, she was named to the Hall of Fame of the Salt Lake Council of Women. To these many honors, I am pleased to add the Distinguished Service Award from Utah Technical College at Salt Lake for her leadership and contributions to Utah Tech and the education and care of the state's youth.
Thank you very much.
Helen, it's a great privilege and a pleasure on behalf of the college to hand you this Distinguished Service Award, which you truly deserve. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Among Utah's legislative friends, we have always considered Senator Warren E. Pugh as one of us. Senator Pugh has achieved business and political success primarily through the world of work. As chairman of the Cummins Intermountain Diesel Sales Company and president of Cummins Intermountain Idaho Incorporated, he has developed a thriving and important link in the trucking industry. He has been a member of the Utah House of Representatives and has been a member of the state Senate since 1967. He served as president of the Senate during 1973-74. Senator Pugh is chairman of the Transportation and Public Safety Committee and serves on the Education Subcommittee of the Joint Appropriations Committee of the Senate. Among his many civic offices, he has been president of the Salt Lake Area Chamber of Commerce and director of the Utah chapter of the Associated General Contractors. For his business and professional achievements and his empathy for Utah Technical College at Salt Lake and the world of work, we are most happy to present this college's Distinguished Service Award to Senator Warren E. Pugh. Congratulations, Senator Pugh.
Thank you very much.
Senator Pugh, we're deeply honored to have you with us, very proud of what you've done for the state of Utah, and this award is justly deserved.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Talbot. Dr. Walter D. Talbot is the State Superintendent of Public Instruction for Utah. As one of the state's leading citizens, Dr. Talbot is a member of the Utah State Land Board and the Governor's Advisory Committee on the Handicapped and Developmentally Disabled. Among many other important offices he has held, Dr. Talbot recently was a member of the Board of Directors of the Council of Chief State School Officers and chairman of the Board of Directors of the Agency for Instructional Television of the United States and Canada. He is currently a member of the Board of Directors of a number of civic organizations here in our community, including the Utah Symphony, Salt Lake Art Council, Pioneer State Theater Advisory Board, and the Utah Opera Company. For his involvement in the affairs that benefit the people of this state, and for his personal support of those seeking vocational technical education, I am extremely pleased to present this Distinguished Service Award from Utah Technical College at Salt Lake to Dr. Walter D. Talbot. Congratulations, Superintendent. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you our distinguished speaker, Dr. Kenneth McFarland. I have long been a fan of Dr. McFarland's. In fact, although he may not realize it, he helped cheer me up after my first heart attack 13 years ago. Dr. McFarland has been in the professional speaking business for 40 years, talking to huge audiences up and down this entire land. For years, he has been a guest lecturer for General Motors, and he was also a former guest lecturer for the Reader's Digest. He has won the Golden Plate Award as America's #1 public speaker, American Academy of Achievement, Outstanding Salesman of America from the National Sales and Marketing Executives, Outstanding American 1974 National Award from the Los Angeles Philharmonic Foundation, the National Leadership Award, Freedom's Foundation, Valley Forge, among many others. He's a former teacher and a former superintendent of schools in Kansas. Dr. McFarland is also the author of Excellence in Public Speaking, a bestseller of its own right. I now invite you to join with me in welcoming Dr. Kenneth McFarland, who is one, if not the best, speaker in this country, as he says in one of his speeches. Now, if you include the city, well, that's a different story. Dr. McFarland.
Good job. I enjoyed it. President Nelson, that was good. I was up in Connecticut not long ago to address a dinner meeting, and the chairman who introduced me, I'm sure, didn't mean to be funny. He just wasn't the humorous type. Shy, actually. But what he said was this. He said, our speaker this evening is a legend in his own mind. Well, I'm glad to see you people. I want you folks to know what this is, this class. I'm just glad to see you. I know it's customary for speakers to be glad to see people. I say sometimes you could hardly be a speaker not to see people. I doubt if it's customary for them to be as glad as I am to see you. If you knew how I live, you heard a little of it. I have what amounts to a full-time job in the office and another full-time job out of the office, and one in the air and one on the ground. And it seems to me that we're always trying to finish up yesterday and do today and get ready for tomorrow simultaneously. And it gets complicated. Now, I mention that only to let you know that when you live like that and you say to folks, I'm glad to see you, it does have, I think, that little extra ring of sincerity that comes from just being glad that you can see anything. You just get so you're glad you can see, period. I've been everywhere this week except in bed. So I can truthfully say that I feel like one of you. Now, I don't know, of course, which one of you it is that I feel like, but whoever it is should go home and rest. That's what I'm trying to get over to you, because you had it. You know, I have a friend there in Topeka, Kansas, where I live. He told me several months ago, he said, Ken, I've been so busy lately, I've had to hire a man to do my jogging. Well, I told him as cold as it's been, that wasn't a bad idea, but he said, no. He said, I want to jog. He said, I understand if I'm faithful in that, I'll die healthier. I was in Lynchburg, Virginia. He told me about a young minister who got up to preach his first sermon in his own church, to his own congregation. He had memorized it clear down to the last comma. He stood up there and he said, behold, I come. And then he had a complete mental blackout. He couldn't think of anything. Well, he started in again. He said, behold, I come, blackout. Well, he's getting desperate, of course. And next time as he said it, he came down hard on the pulpit. He said, behold, I come. And that ancient old pulpit there in the little church collapsed under that. And he ended up down in the front row of pews, lying across the lap of an elderly lady. And he said to her, oh, I'm so terribly sorry. She said, that's all right, young man. You warned me 3 times. Well, I've been warned 3 times on how much time I have here tonight, and I'm going to stay within it. You can be sure of that. And I want to congratulate this class. I've been watching you here, and folks up in the balcony, I say you're a fine-looking class. I'd say you're even a handsome class. That is, some of you are. And it's been a joy to me just to see you. I want to congratulate this class, and I want to certainly, from my heart, congratulate this great educational institution. I think it's phenomenal growth that tests eloquently as anything could how urgent the need was for it, and the need is for it. Technical education, vocational education, career education, all of these things I think go together to constitute an idea in education that the time has come. And no one could be more pleased about that than I am. I'm one of those that kind of a pioneer in all this technical education, and we fought and bled and died for about 30 years when no one would help us with anything. And to see all this coming on now is a great joy, believe me, and I'm happy to be here and be just a part of this for a little while. People say to me every once in a while, why do you do what you do? Why do you work all day and fly all night and go to work the next morning with the people who have been in bed the night before? I would like for you to know I don't do that because I have to make a living this way. I don't have to make a living this way. I like to be in my own home with my own family just as well as the next man likes to be with his own. And I think I could have been there a great deal more through the years. I could have been there for dinner this evening, of course. I found out something. I found out a long time ago as an educator first, and I've had it underscored and reinforced in a great many areas of activity since. We're going to have to quit assuming, just assuming, that somehow or other our American people are going to understand this thing that we call the American system just because they're born in America. Now, we know in education that when you're born, you don't understand anything at all. I mean, you aren't even preconditioned to learn one kind of a philosophy of living any more readily than another. Now, as you know well, a child can be preconditioned in a talent. When one child's born, he'll just have more talent to play a violin, say, or play football or something. He'll have more than someone else, but he has no more understanding of a philosophy of living than anyone else. They all start at scratch. They learn it all. They learn it all wrong, or they learn it all right, or something in between. But they all start at zero. This is one reason I like wives and mothers and grandmothers and just as many meetings as I can get them in. Every one of these kids does start at scratch, and he does have to learn it all. Once in a while, after a meeting, somebody will come up and say, some woman say, oh, I'm just a housewife and a mother. Well, sometimes I say to her, lady, if you don't do your job right, it doesn't make too much difference what the rest of us do. I think sometimes more people should see what we have in the way of studies showing the important mindsets that a child has by the time he's 5 years old. He hasn't even seen a school teacher yet. And yet here are these mindsets. And it doesn't take any longer to learn it right than it does to learn it wrong. Somebody told me about a Vietnamese infant that was adopted by a couple here in this country, and now the young couple that adopted this child are down at the night school, and they're studying the Vietnamese language, so when the baby starts to talk, they'll be able to understand what he says. Well, of course, he's going to understand what they say. And that's why it's so terribly important that they say the right thing. Now, when I say the American system, please understand I'm not doing what a lot of people derisively call these days flag waving. I wish we could have a meeting just on that. We need a lot of meetings. The right kind of meetings. Let me interject just this because it's a perfect illustration of what I'm just talking about. When did it get to be corny and stupid to wave the flag of the United States of America? Now, it did not used to be that way. It is the same America, it is the same flag. But some new people came along. Now, these new people had no more preconceived opinion about this thing than anyone who had ever preceded them had. And an awful lot of them learned it wrongly. Some right, some in between. I've addressed millions of young people, and I mean millions. I know how easy it is to stand up and say, oh, I've talked to a million of them. I have. I was in the school business for 24 years, and I'm doing some of this sort of thing then. I've been doing it all these years since, and through the electronics medium, all of it. Actually, millions. I have never seen very many that couldn't understand this. I like to say why we can't get up every morning and say, I'm grateful for free speech, I'm grateful for freedom of religion, I'm grateful for free press, I'm grateful for free enterprise, I'm grateful for all the marvelous things that we have in this wonderful country. What we can do is what you did here this evening, and that's pause and pay respect to the symbol of those things, which is the flag. Not stupid, not corny, But I've said to young people, now if you'd like to make a list of things that are stupid, you could put ingratitude somewhere near the top of that list. I don't know any way to call a person an ingrate and make a compliment out of it. But that's exactly what he is if he does not appreciate from the bottom of his heart what the flag symbolizes. I have never seen many young people that couldn't understand that, and of course I never saw a single one who understood it when he was born. It's taught, it's learned, just like anything else. But when I talk about the system, I'm talking about two very specific things: the American economic system of free competitive enterprise and the American political system of individual freedom guaranteed by law. Those two things together constitute the frame around your picture. Your personal picture, the family picture, the future picture, all the pictures. Now, under the American system, that frame rests squarely on a spiritual foundation. I didn't come here to preach you a sermon because I've never studied any theology. I'd be proud if I had. I have studied a great deal of government and economics and history. Now, it's true that the people who wrote the Constitution of the United States and the people who wrote our original instruments of government and the guidelines for our original jurisprudence and all that, those people, no matter what you and I say or we don't say or we believe or we don't believe or we do or we don't do, those people did read the Holy Scriptures and they did believe them. And that fact is reflected in everything else that they did. All their standards of right and wrong, and there's no way to understand the American system unless you understand that. And don't let anyone tell you where you live that that cannot be legally taught. In public schools, under the restrictions of the Supreme Court, we can't teach religion, but we can teach about religion. And unless we do that, our people have no way of understanding the American system. You see, it's in this foundation, spiritual foundation, under the frame, that you have the core concept of the whole thing. It's something called the sovereign citizen concept. In America, the individual citizen is sovereign. His personality is inviolate because, and there's another thing I would debate with anybody in the world, only because he is created in the image of God himself and his government officially recognizes that. What other claim would you have to an inviolate personality? Now, if you think this frame and this foundation around your picture, if you think those things can disappear, and when they're gone, your picture, you and your future and your family, your job, your company, your picture, going to be standing out there by itself, all pretty and untarnished, forget it. If the frame and the foundation go, your picture's going. This is why I work at it. You see, we're going to have to understand that they all go together. So when you get right down to it, it doesn't make any difference what your motivation would be for saving these things. It could be selfish or it could be magnanimous. You would still do the same thing. This is what we're going to have to work on. I get sometimes sick when they send me convention programs, national convention programs. They bring people in from all over America, maybe other parts of the world. They'll convene, they'll be in session several days and adjourn and go home, and there won't be one single session devoted to how do we save the system itself. Whereas if the system is lost, it doesn't make much difference what we did talk about in the other sessions. I can explain that so easily to people, anybody in any job. I say to them sometime, I don't care what you do, whatever you do, how would you like to be doing it in Red Russia? How about Red China? How about Cuba, North Vietnam, Cambodia? You see, if the frame and the foundation go, your picture goes. So our job is, my job, the thing I've dedicated my life to, is trying to save that system, which means saving your opportunity. I've often said that I think the eighth wonder of the world is the American system of free competitive enterprise, the American economic system. And the ninth wonder is the colossal ignorance of our own people as to how the system works. Now we're going to have to understand how it works. You see, free enterprise, I like to think of it as a vehicle that delivers more good things to more people than any other vehicle ever devised by the mind of man. I mean, whatever's in second place is so far back is strictly no contest. But the vehicle isn't foolproof, and no one ever said it was. I've never heard anybody say it was perfect. It's not automatic, it isn't self-operating, it has to be operated by people. People who believe in it and have faith in it and understand it, and that means we have to learn about it. Congressman Jack Kemp of New York. His staff worked out something I think would be of interest to you. They found out and figured out that of all the goods and services produced in the world in the last 10,000 years, half of them have been produced in America in the last 200 years. That's free enterprise. Then why is it that every time we get into an emergency of some kind, or an imagined emergency, we want to forsake this system and turn things over to the government that has never run any system of business successfully? Yet this is what we do. We taught a 5-year-old child about this between free enterprise and private endeavor and government in operation. We just did it by comparing the telephone system with the postal system. Very interesting. 5 years old. We had him put his hand on the telephone in his own home there. And we said, honey, with that instrument right there, and no one helping you, you can dial any one of 100 million telephones. That's private endeavor. Then we told him what the post office didn't do. We got all through. We said, now the interesting thing is, we tax the telephone system that's paying its way and making money and giving us all this service to support the postal system that's losing money. What do you think about that? He's 5 years old, remember. He said, that sounds like it's nuts. Well, we said, honey, one of the reasons it sounds that way, it is. But they can understand soon. Someone sent me a wonderful cartoon. I get so many marvelous things in the mail, and I appreciate them. Believe me, I do. But here's a cartoon of a citizen, a taxpayer. You know, they always portray him, a little skinny-necked guy, harassed-looking, and he's talking to a postal clerk. And he said, it seems like 15 cents is an awful lot of money to send a letter from New York to Boston. And the clerk said, well, think of it this way. It's only a penny a day. Someone said, if you want to make sure that crime doesn't pay, we ought to turn it over to the government. They've never made anything pay that anybody ever heard of. Some of you, I'm sure, will remember that we need this and we need to rededicate ourselves to it all the time. Now, the job of the government, of course, is to provide for the common defense. They coin the money, they handle foreign affairs. Outside of that category of things, we need to rededicate ourselves to this. There's nothing that government can do that private endeavor can't do better. Now, we have to teach this. We teach it constantly to all the people who come along. We remember ourselves, and when we get frightened or we get scared, we don't panic and turn things over to the government that they can't do. Some of you will remember, this audience, the Manhattan Project. When World War II started, the government of the United States wanted an atomic bomb. It was a terrible thing, but it probably saved 100,000 American lives. They'd had to invade. And of course, the people said it was terrible that we used it, and it was terrible that we had to use it, but we found out in the last 3 weeks that Japan was trying to develop one at the same time. Ours got ready first. But the government called in the very finest minds we had in industry and research and business and education. And they said, build an atomic bomb. No one in the world knows how to do it. We want one. And for once, the government didn't try to tell them how to do it, because for once the government knew that they didn't know how. They got off their backs and out of their roads and let them go, and they built the bomb. That's the Manhattan Project. Now, my point is, we can solve any problem in America that way. Anything. Bring in the finest minds we have in private endeavor, in research, in education. We can cure cancer. We could do anything if we just let them go, get out of their roads and let them do the job. We have the ability in America. I've said to kids, I've said to children, the last 4 letters of the word American spell I can. Maybe you think it's corny. Maybe it is. I believe it. There's nothing we can't do if we give our people a chance to work under the system. I did the Chamber of Commerce meeting at Grand Junction, Colorado here a couple of months ago. And I remember when we got out there at the airport, they said, see those mountains there? And we were looking at the west side of the Rocky Range there. They said, do you know the shale in those mountains in this state and in Wyoming contain more oil than there is in Saudi Arabia? Well, I said, what are we doing to get it out there? They said, nothing. Nothing at all. Sierra Club and some people have got that headed off, and some of Ralph Nader's people in the government have got it headed off, not doing anything. You see, here we need a Manhattan Project. Let's get in the finest ability we have in this whole field and say, now you tell us how to get that oil out of there without destroying the landscape, and you tell us how to get it out of there in a way that we can make it marketable. Sell it at a price that'll go. And they would do it. There's no question about it. We can do these things if we just get where we got to be left free to use our knowledge. We used to say that spectacular achievement must be preceded by unspectacular preparation. We said that in education, we said it in training, we always said it. It's still true. But we got so many people now in all walks of life, all ages, they don't want to do that. They don't want to serve any apprenticeship of any kind. They don't want to train and get ready. They just want to take over, go to work. You know, they want to be big shots and not serve any apprenticeship as little shots. Somebody said big shots, little shots, they kept shooting. Well, they don't want to do that. They are standing around waiting on their ships to come in. They didn't send any out. They don't understand how the system works. I like to put it this way. We got so many people in this world and in this country who want to arrive without making the trip. You say you can't do that. You folks have been making the trip. And tonight, you've arrived at a very important milestone. You can't do it any other way. You have to get ready. You know, 51 years ago, last month, I came out of a classroom, and there on the bulletin board in the hallway, somebody had printed in big letters with chalk, Lindbergh made it. And someone said, who's Lindbergh? He wasn't stupid. You see, when Lindbergh was getting ready, no one knew who he was. But if he hadn't have gotten ready, they never would have known. That's the way that worked. I like to see people, tourists in St. Louis Airport. Those of you who have been in the St. Louis Airport know that there's a replica of the Spirit of St. Louis hanging there in the ceiling. I think it's an interesting commentary on our times that the Spirit of St. Louis cost $15,000 and the replica cost $100,000. But I like to see tourists and other people, if I have time, I like to see them when they're looking at that and hear what they say. They haven't seen it before. They'll say, did a man actually fly across the Atlantic Ocean in that? Well, the answer is he did. He surely did. That plane was built by the Ryan Aircraft Corporation in California years after the flight was made. I addressed the management of that Ryan Aircraft Corporation. I said to them, how many here, could I see the hands of those here who worked on the Spirit of St. Louis? Well, I was surprised at how many were still there. I said, you'd do me a very great honor if some of you could just stay a little while after the meeting and tell me about it. I want to hear it. And they stayed. I said, they tell me that Lindbergh was right out here and worked on the plane. They said, why, he was, all the time. They said, we designed that plane right here. He helped design it. He went right down the line with it. They said when we rolled that plane out the back door, there was nothing that guy didn't know about it. I mean, every strut, every rivet, every bolt, everything in it, he knew. And on nights he was studying navigation, sometimes all night, weekends. You see, when he was out there over the Atlantic in that little plane, 33 and a half hours, he had a thermos jug of coffee. He had 2 sandwiches. But he not only had to stay awake, he had to figure the curvature of the earth. He had to allow for the prevailing winds. If he'd have gotten 100 miles off course, he would have run out of fuel. While he was learning all that, no one knew who he was. They never would have known, of course, if he hadn't have learned it. This is what I mean. We have to get with it. We have to get ready. There's no substitute for skill. But please let me make this clear to you. While there is no substitute for skill, skill is not enough. And I think that this is a good time for ourselves to remind that there is no substitute for it. But let me give you a little lesson in economics that you don't need. Most things that are valuable where they are, but they become marketable when you take them someplace. For example, if we had to sell in Michigan all the automobiles we make in Detroit, that would be too bad. If we had to sell in Kansas all the wheat we produce, that would be too bad. If they had to sell in Pennsylvania and West Virginia all the coal they produce, too bad. These things and a lot of other things like them, valuable where they are, marketable when you take them someplace. Now, a skill is exactly like that. Valuable where it is, marketable when you deliver it to the job and keep it there. And that's character. You see, character has to be the vehicle that delivers your skill to the job and makes it marketable. There's no substitute for that. I talked to a lot of sales meetings. I used to do a great many of them, but I don't do so many anymore. But I used to do them. I just do what we call CPC meetings. How do you make the contact? How do you make the presentation? How do you make the close? I leave that to other people anymore, and some of them do it very well. I talk to them now in sales groups, not how do you make a successful sale, how do you make a successful sales career? How do you go the distance? How do you get up when you get knocked down? How do you get over the dry spell? This is character. I addressed a school of business seniors graduating at UCLA, going out into business, fine-looking group of people. Quite a contrast with some that they had there in the 60s when I was out, not in that school. All those people were raising the devil in the 60s didn't come out of the school of business. They didn't come out of vocational education. They didn't come out of medicine. They didn't come out of law. They came out of social studies or something where you didn't need to know anything for sure. They were the ones that were doing all that. But I had a very fine session with these seniors. They were fine people. Then we had a question and answer period. First question, a nice-looking young man got it back there, and he said, "How do you win the old rat race?" Well, I said, now that's a dilly of a question. That's quite a question. I'm not sure I can handle all that. I can't do it all one time. Why don't we break it up a little? Why don't we go in the back door? Why don't we talk about how you don't win it? You don't win it by being a rat. Isn't that funny? The old rat race isn't won by rats. Oh, they win a few of the sprints, but none of the long distance races. It takes character. It takes ability to endure. This is what we're going to have to rededicate ourselves to. I wish we had time to get into that and tell you something about the Davidson studies that we made at Stanford. I've done a lot of work with Percy Davis at Stanford. Why do people get fired was one series. We took people on the line manufacturing jobs. We're not talking about people that got laid off because they had a gas shortage or something. We're talking about people that got fired. Somebody else took the job. They got a can hung right on it. And it was interesting, somewhere between 73 and 91% in each case were fired for reasons that did not pertain to skill. What were they? Well, they were lazy, poor health, poor personalities, bad dispositions, talked too much, exercised the right of poor judgment, called it the right of free speech. They were disloyal. I like what the president said here this evening, that statement he made from Albert Hubbard. That's called horse sense. That's what Albert Hubbard named it. It'll make you dollars and cents. Loyalty to the firm isn't corny. They pay more for it than they ever did because there's less of it. The demand for it is the greatest it's ever been. What happens when the law of supply and demand operates? The price goes up when there's less of it and more of it in demand. These people were immoral, believe it or not. Basic cause of failure. They were intemperate. Very common cause, always high. The grand old man of Stanford University, David Starr Jordan, used to talk to the seniors when they were going out into the world. He'd say, "Men, leave the heavy drinking to your competitors." And he said, if they'll take on that job in a good two-fisted way, they won't be your competitors very long. I remember a speaker on the public speaking circuit some years ago. He just couldn't get enough free whiskey. He went to all the cocktail parties that preceded the meetings, and he's like that Scotsman. They said, "How much can you drink?" And he said, "Any given amount." Well, he was that way. Long as it was free. He told me one day, he said, "Ken, when I've had 2 or 3 good stiff drinks, I think better." And I said to him, no, you don't. There's not a word in the biology book that'll support what you said. It slows you down, brother. Your reaction time is slower. You're thinking slower. You're not thinking better or faster. You're just more impressed with a poor opinion. And it's a vocational fact. I'm not preaching to you on this thing. Well, we're going to have to wring this down. I'm going to stay with that agreement that we made. I knew I wouldn't finish the speech. Matter of fact, I haven't finished one for 20 years. Like that judge gave a man a sentence for 50 years, and this man jumped up and he said, "Why, Your Honor, I'm 61 years old." He said, "I can't finish that." The judge said, "Now, don't you worry your head about that." He said, "You just go up there and do the best you can." Well, that's the way I am when they tell me how much time I got and I know it isn't enough. I just don't worry about it. Go up there, do the best you can. Wouldn't have enough anyway. By the way, I was in Florida talking about sentences. They told me about a new prison they have down there. No walls, no bars, no guards, and no escapes. They said it just shows what you can do with love and patience and understanding in a ditch full of alligators. Well, I want to congratulate you, members. Let me give you this one little thing, and we've had it. I talked to 3,600 school teachers in St. Louis, and I said to them, I love teachers. I worked with them so long. I said then and I say now, nothing's too good for a good teacher. But I said, of course, we know we're not all equally good. Kind of a paradox there. We know we're not all equally good, and the public knows we're not all equally good, but for some reason or other, we're trying to keep the public from finding out that we know it. Now, we're all on the same side here, and it's an in-house meeting. We're going to have to square away well on that. You see, we're great consumers, we teachers. We're great consumer advocates. If we buy something we don't like, we sure let somebody know about it if we have to pay for it. Well, the parents are consumers of our products, and they have a right to be consumer advocates. And if they don't like our product, they certainly have a right to tell us. And there's no reason at all why we should cry about that. Well, we had a great meeting. I said to them, teachers ought to love free enterprise, but a lot of you don't. You know you don't. You see, we spend more money on public education in America than all the rest of the world combined. You heard it right. No other system could produce anything like that. You ought to love it. A lot of you don't. We raise registered Tennessee walking horses on our farm in Kansas, have for 30 years. 30 years now. Middle Tennessee has been kind of second home to us. It was years ago down there. They first told me that story of the girl that came down out of the hills to the little town for the Saturday night dance and social. And some slick-looking stranger came up to her and wanted to dance with him, and she said, nope. She said, I'm a-dancing with the one that brung me. I said to the teachers in St. Louis, in education, we've got a lot of slick-looking strangers coming up to us these days, and they want us to go cavorting off with them out into socialism or something worse. You know what we better do? We better just keep on a-dancing with the one that brung us. That was free enterprise. I told them about that marvelous TV commercial. I hope some of you saw it. When I brag about TV commercials, this is definitely a breakthrough. I mean, that's one of my hang-ups that I know about. I get so tired of having deodorants for dinner. I could make you a speech on that. You know, you're trying to get the news from the world, and here's a guy telling you what your left side would tell your right side if you just give it a chance. But anyway, here was this marvelous TV commercial. Some of you must have seen it. A newsboy is taking his papers off of a truck. And it says he is an independent businessman. He pays for his papers. Through his own effort, he delivers them and sells them at a profit. He keeps books. He pays taxes. And hear this, he makes more money than half the people in the whole world. A newsboy under free enterprise. I said to the teachers, if you can't teach that, God help you. You can't teach anything. You don't need to teach it. Point to it. Just let them see it. That's what you do with the American system. You don't have to make a case for it. You reveal it. The truth isn't self-evident. It won't wail out. Truth, Christ, earth doesn't get up again the way the man said it did. You help it. We call it two-fisted teaching, two-fisted selling. You go out and sell them what you've learned, your skill. You sell them with this hand. You go out and sell them the whole ball of wax, the American system, with this one. This is the insurance policies. You keep selling this one. If you'll do it, I'll promise you something. You start standing a little taller. When you stand a little taller, you can see better. But not only that, other people can see you better. And when they see you better, and they know what you stand for, and they know that what you advocate is good for them, then you get the greatest asset that a person can have if he wants to be in any position of leadership or influence, and that's believability. They believe you. You folks have been lovely to me tonight. In closing, I'd like to again extend my congratulations, and I'd like to do something and say something to you that is as nice for you as the way you've been to me. I think I'll go back to that old thing that says I might wish you wealth, or I might wish you health, or that good fortune would caress you. But wealth might bring sorrow, and health could fail tomorrow. So I'll simply say, God bless you.
That's some tremendous advice. I would like to make a gift to the graduating class that we can all enjoy, I hope. A 5-minute start on getting started on his advice. That was my speech. President Nelson, these candidates for graduation have completed all requirements for their certificate, diploma, or associate in applied science degrees. Their instructors have recommended them for graduation. I present them to you and recommend that they receive those certificates for which they have completed the requirements.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty of Utah Technical College, and by the authority given to the President, by the State Board for Vocational Education, and the Regents of the Utah System of Higher Education, I confer upon you the certificates of graduation, diplomas, or Associate of Applied Science degrees, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Will the class please don your caps? Prepare to come forward to receive your awards. The certificates will be presented by members of the Utah State Board for Vocational Education and the State Board of Regents. Dr. Belknap, Regent D. Omer Butters will start the presentations.
So what do I do? Keep me on?
Milo E. Young, Business Management, Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Stephen Charles Danzy, Accounting Certificate, Business Management, Accounting Oriented, AAS degree.
Brian Clyde Riches, Transportation Management, AAS degree.
Sterling Kim Jones, Accounting Certificate, Business Management Supervision, AAS degree.
Hong Vo Thang, Accounting Certificate.
Hao Vo Thang, Accounting Certificate, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Tang Vo Thang, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Edward Allen Vincent, Apprenticeship Electricity, AAS degree.
B. Scott Van Otten, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Stephen Edward Carruthers, Auto Mechanics Diploma.
Don Figura, Auto Mechanics Diploma.
Robert W. Moffett, Auto Mechanics Diploma.
Michael Y. Nien Ma, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Marty L. Burgess, Auto Mechanics Diploma.
Larry Paul Bush, Auto Mechanics Diploma.
Mel Thomas, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Craig J. Nielsen, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Larry Glenn Reynolds, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Glenn Arthur Mills, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Alan Clifford Osborne, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Gregory Allen Nielsen, Heavy Duty Mechanics, AAS degree.
Rockwell G. Whittam, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Kenneth Ernest Jensen, Auto Mechanics, Diploma.
Michael Douglas Jones, Business Management Accounting-oriented AAS degree.
Ronald Dean Hammond, Accounting Certificate.
George C. Backman, Marketing Certificate, Business Management Supervision-oriented AAS degree.
William Wallace Patterson, Marketing Certificate.
Mark Pennington, Building Construction Diploma.
John K. Dyer, Building Construction Diploma.
Gary G. Siegmiller, Building Construction AAS degree.
Rodney Allen Hughes, Building Construction AAS degree.
Luis Ortez, Building Construction AAS degree.
Ted C. Sharp, Building Construction AAS degree.
Lynn R. Forsberg, Building Construction Diploma.
Gary E. Hewlett, Building Construction AAS degree.
Timothy Wells Lane, Building Construction AAS degree.
Roger Craig West, Building Construction AAS degree.
Edward Harrison Clark, Building Construction Diploma.
Danny Keith Minor, Building Construction Diploma.
Blaine D. Wood, Building Construction Diploma.
Terry W. M. Chateau, Architectural Drafting AAS degree.
Don Paul Gresk, Architectural Drafting AAS degree.
Sharon Ann Anderson, Accounting Certificate.
Janet Lee Blandthorne, Accounting Certificate.
Cheryl A. Bottom, Accounting Certificate.
Guang Thai Pan, Accounting Certificate.
Stephen J. Perry, Apprenticeship Plumbing AAS degree.
Joseph Henry DuPay, Apprenticeship Plumbing AAS degree.
Janice Thelma Eliason, Accounting Certificate.
Gay Despain, Accounting Certificate.
Laura K. Kimmons, Accounting Certificate.
Phyllis J. West, Accounting Certificate.
Oak Joe Burke, Accounting Certificate.
Stephen Glenn Wheaton, Accounting Certificate.
Dennis Lane Wright, Apprenticeship Plumbing AAS degree.
L. Glenn Jenkins, Apprenticeship Carpentry ASS degree.
Richard Huntington, Apprenticeship Electricity AAS degree.
Ronald G. Pedler, Apprenticeship Electricity AAS degree.
Albert H. Jeffrey, Apprenticeship Machinist AAS degree.
Stephen Paul Knappus, Apprenticeship Plumbing AAS degree.
Julie Ann Shireman, Barbering Certificate.
Charla R. Puttock, Accounting Certificate, Business Management Accounting-oriented AAS degree.
Cynthia V. Conger, Business Management Accounting-oriented AAS degree.
Wendy Cherise Cotal, Barbering Certificate.
Renee Thomas, Printing Certificate.
James C. Thomas, Electricity Certificate.
Otis Nowwood, Electricity Certificate.
Frank J. Langyal, Business Management Accounting-oriented AAS degree.
Lynn W. Christofferson, Accounting Certificate AAS degree.
Cecil I. Wall, Business Management Accounting-oriented AAS degree.
Raylene Dellis Covey, Accounting Certificate.
Mary E. Walden, Marketing Certificate.
Randy L. Harrison, Accounting Certificate.
Gregory Gordon, Apprenticeship Electricity, AAS degree.
Kevin Kent Davis, Building Construction, AAS degree.
Rick Stanley Mendozábal, Business Management Accounting Oriented, AAS degree.
Brent C. Fowler, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Jeffrey Lynn Naylor, Business Management, AAS degree.
Hubert Lee Tyree, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Rosemary Rigler, Accounting Certificate.
Gerald Victor West, Business Management Accounting Oriented Certificate.
Kendall Busk, Marketing Certificate, Business Management, AAS degree.
Dick Bradley Jensen, Marketing Certificate, Business Management Ownership Oriented, AAS degree.
Milton Timothy Zuver, Transportation Management Certificate, Transportation Management degree.
Marilyn Angeli, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Victoria Lynn Gonzalez, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Claudia Faye McGinnis, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Elaine May Nordgren, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Cindy Lou Coons, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Tina Tilda Samuels, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Marcella Ruth Geisler Sparks, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Joy Gillenskog, Clerk Typist Certificate.
Perry L. Hagen, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Helen Lorraine Lindberg, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Rondalyn Crawford, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Cynthia Marie Nickel, Commercial Art, Diploma.
Kim Remington Sutphin, Commercial Art, Diploma.
Elaine Louise Enright, Commercial Art, Diploma.
Sharon K. Perry, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Christine Briggs, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Britanna Brady, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Suzanne Malaska, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Sheldon Dean Chappell, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Gary Louise Graham, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Eileen Despain, Commercial Art, Diploma.
Joni Williams, Commercial Art, AAS degree.
Constant M. Kelly, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Lola Elizabeth Copina, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Rosemary Ann Miller, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Pamela Bales, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Barbara E. Gutke, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Anna R. Hart, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Rodney K. Engel, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Lee Merritt Rogers, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Wilford Ivo Hermanson, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Leroy Barr, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Cardiff K. Rees, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Matthew Noel Scott, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Thomas Edwin Mackey, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Michael Andrews Sapiris, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Patricia Lynn Ramel, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Randall Roy Buckley, Data Processing, AAS degree.
Gary James Polson, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
David N. Brown, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Alvin G. Zollinger, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Deborah Gray, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Larry B. Stanton, Drafting and Design Technology, certificate.
Edward Partridge Kimball, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Brent Reed Higginbotham, Drafting and Design Technology, certificate, AAS degree.
Thomas L. Pryor, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Jane H. Davies, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Grant A. Thomas, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Scott Allen Lee, Drafting and Design Technology, AAS degree.
Ned R. Fox, Marketing Certificate, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Kenneth Morgan Simpson, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree.
Carlos Gutierrez, Business Management Supervision Oriented, AAS degree, Marketing Certificate.
Marty Pert, Electricity certificate.
Wallace Eugene Cook, Electricity Certificate.
Carrie Hansen, Electricity certificate.
D. Bowman, Electricity Certificate.
Albert Bradley Kruger, Electricity certificate.
Robert Montanez, Electricity Certificate.
David E. Farr, Electricity certificate.
John T. Bittendorf, Electricity Certificate.
Alfonso Rico, Electricity certificate.
Stephen Warren Mulcock, Electricity Certificate. Taniela Hafoka, Electricity Certificate.
Kevin Reed Wall, Electricity certificate.
William Allen Jackie, Electricity Certificate.
Cyrus Safarian, Business Management Ownership Oriented, AAS degree, Marketing certificate.
Frank J. Curry, Electronic Technology, AAS degree. Hossein Baraki, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Douglas G. Coughlin, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Randolph Eugene Stinson, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Milford M. Chestnut, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
George Joseph Wilson, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
David Lynn Mattern, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
James P. Knight, Auto Mechanics, Diploma. Phuoc Van Nguyen, Electronic Technology Diploma. Key Van Lee, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Samuel Russell Freebarn, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Nevin Ron Blackham, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Donald John Wood, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Daniel Charles Eaton, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Frank Steve Bertagnoli, Electronic Technology, AAS degree.
Scott Ballard Neely, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Bruce Levere Hone, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Calvin J. Carroll, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Brent Neldon Stephenson, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Carl M. Hoagland, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Terry Ann McBride, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Felix Montanez, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma. Feliti Allen Pahulu, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Kelly Roland Van Otten, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Julius B. Dickerson, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Robert Grant Mortensen, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Vernon W. Walksmith, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Johnny Roy Lopez, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Debbie K. Gunnell, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Joyce Ann McMillan, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Mai Thai Nguyen, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Marie Janaszewski, Machine Shop, Certificate.
David Leland Mills, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Brett C. Moultrie, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Cinda Sandberg, Machine Shop, Certificate.
John D. Brannell, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Thomas Michael Bladen, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Bruce Allen Clift, Marketing, Certificate.
Dwayne Clay Fox, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Ronald Duane Garlitz, Hotel Motel Management, Certificate.
Larry Angus Stewart, Machine Shop, Certificate.
Robert Franklin Barnes, Hotel Motel Management, Certificate, AAS degree.
Blair Parkinson, Machine Shop, Certificate.
George Francis Nichols, Hotel Motel Management, AAS degree.
Steve A. Stevens, Machine Shop, Certificate. Josie Vashta, Hotel Motel Management, Certificate. Carmen Elena Quiros, Hotel Motel Management, Certificate and AAS degree.
James Grant Rowley, Apprenticeship Carpentry, AAS degree.
Pamela K. Van Ostendorp, Barbering, Certificate.
Carol M. Hunter, Barbering, Certificate.
Tamara Farley, Barbering, Certificate.
Heidi Helm, Barbering, Certificate.
Cynthia Barber, Barbering, Certificate.
Lawrence Lynn Simmons, Accounting, Certificate, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Michael D. Franco, Auto Mechanics, Diploma.
Harry Tasolsi, Auto Mechanics, Diploma.
Ernest Vincent Nunez, Auto Mechanics, AAS degree.
Bradley Dean Simons, Auto Body Repair and Paint, AAS degree.
Ron Jean Hayden, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Vince Badger, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Robert Pixton Jr., Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
John D. Maddox, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Lariel Scar Charlie, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Mike Lawrence, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Daryl Allen Schultz, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Harold Seville Myers, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Dixon Clark Wilkins, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Douglas J. White, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Roy L. Nielsen, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Michael Raymond Murray, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Scott A. McComb, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Lynette Main, Accounting, Certificate.
Glenn K. Smith, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Timothy K. Rohr, Brick Masonry, Certificate.
Jeffrey D. Allred, brick masonry certificate.
Clifton Wells Van Valkenburg, auto body repair certificate.
Brent B. Doyle, auto body repair certificate.
Carl David Green, auto body repair certificate.
Larry Manygoats, auto body repair certificate.
Larry J. Nez, auto body repair certificate.
Robert V. Lefevre, auto body repair certificate.
Edward Dickerson, auto body repair certificate.
Brian J. Westergaard, auto body repair certificate.
Kevin Ross Westergaard, auto body repair certificate.
Philip Reed Carlson, auto body paint diploma.
Kevin Jenks, building construction diploma.
Donald Brent Larson, building construction AAS degree.
John Gibbs Hill, building construction AAS degree.
James M. Adams, building construction diploma.
Stephen Osguthorpe, building construction AAS degree.
Kelly Dean Craycroft, building construction diploma.
Scott K. Simons, building construction diploma.
Norman D. Sims, building construction diploma.
Ike Jones May, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Michael Lynn Lewis, architectural drafting AAS degree.
David J. Runyon, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Kenneth M. Spence, architectural drafting AAS degree.
David J. Nielsen, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Kenneth H. Berg, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Bruce Ball Allen, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Riley G. Murphy, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Cindy O'Keefe, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Laura Jean Stone, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Douglas Purcell, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Norman P. Savage, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Edmund Lauren Barlow, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Scott Bernard Starley, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Christy Lee Wall, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Douglas Paul Millerberg, architectural drafting AAS degree.
Chris Conrad K. Christensen, business management ownership oriented AAS degree.
Linda S. Todd, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Robert Ellis Martin, operating room technician certificate.
Cynthia Lynn McKnight, accounting certificate, AAS degree, business management accounting oriented.
Reed L. Johnson, building construction AAS degree.
Tom Pavich, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Jeff F. Fratto, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Michelle Wynn, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Linda C. Evans, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Raymond V. Eorg, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Jolene Nickel, accounting certificate, business management accounting oriented AAS degree.
Robert P. McCone, transportation management AAS degree.
Dean L. Shore, Transportation Management, Certificate, AAS degree.
Marion L. Baines, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Barbara Elsie Price, Accounting Certificate, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Marianne Corey Burnett, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Vonda Barney Blazard, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Betty Ruth Cordova, Clerk Typist, Certificate.
Deborah K. Weber, Clerk Typist, Certificate.
Joyce Tribbett Lutz, Accounting Certificate, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Elizabeth Ann Hibbard, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Harvey S. Buys, Accounting Certificate, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Elizabeth J. Anderson, Accounting Certificate, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Douglas Brian Dean, Building Construction, Diploma.
E. Wayne Stanley, Building Construction, AAS degree.
Neil Rolfe Alcott, Building Construction, AAS degree.
James F. Ellison, Building Construction, Diploma.
Deborah Colleen Williams, Clerk Typist, Certificate.
Affiong Peter Akpan, Clerk Typist, Certificate.
Clifford Spencer Diat, Business Management, Accounting-Oriented, AAS degree.
Roger Ellis Jensen, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Robert Earl Tucker, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Michael Anton Winkle, Marketing Certificate, Business Management, AAS degree.
Gordon Clark McLaughlin, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Afton Ann Sorensen, Marketing Certificate, Business Management, Ownership-Oriented, AAS degree.
Herb Van Oss, Apprenticeship Machinist, AAS degree.
Norman Scott Bailey, Business Management, Supervision-Oriented, AAS degree.
Gordon J. Bedell, Marketing Certificate.
George D. Purin, Marketing Certificate.
Leon Willard Webb, Marketing Certificate.
Sandra K. Pope, Cosmetology Certificate.
Susan H. Bernards, Cosmetology Certificate.
Dana Sharon Twitchell, Cosmetology Certificate.
Jean Leslie McMullen, Cosmetology Certificate.
Eloise Douglas C. Wright, Cosmetology Certificate.
Leah Gaskell, Cosmetology Certificate.
Mike E. Roberts, Electricity Certificate.
John D. Lixit, Electricity Certificate.
S. R. Weber, Electricity Certificate.
Harold J. Ford, Electricity Certificate.
Stephen L. Wall, Apprenticeship Ironworking, AAS degree.
Kelly Fife Kennedy, Electricity Certificate.
George Jacob Buckway, Electricity Certificate.
Lamar Melvin Bowman, Electricity Certificate.
Mark J. Ryder, Electricity Certificate.
Wade Laird Harmon, Electricity Certificate.
Kelly Woodruff Snow, Electricity Certificate.
Jonathan Chi Hunter, Electricity Certificate.
Charlie Jones, Electricity Certificate.
Stephen W. Atencio, Electricity Certificate.
Douglas George Freeman, Electricity Certificate.
Vaughn Mark Barr, Electricity Certificate.
George D. Ross, Electricity Certificate.
Randy Lewis Howell, Electricity Certificate.
Paul K. Jarvinen, Electricity Certificate.
Kevin Scott Newsom, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Raymond S. Urban, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Michael J. Stapley, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Rocky Eugene Gansky, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Sylvia Meyer, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Paul L. Brenchley, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Randall Scott Hume, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Robert L. Coomer, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Dennis James Solberg, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Paul Norman Sellers, Electricity Certificate.
Chris Theodore Giatris, Electricity Certificate.
Roger L. Peterson, Electricity Certificate.
Stephen C. Baird, Electricity Certificate.
John Brown, Electricity Certificate.
Donald Foster, Electricity Certificate.
Howard Harvey, Electricity Certificate.
Rick Nicoletti Peterson, Electricity Certificate.
Richard Lee Beaton, Electricity Certificate.
Kevin V. Hayes, Electricity Certificate.
James Lee Hagan, Electricity Certificate.
Alan R. Middleton, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Edward Lyle Strong, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
David Wilford Robinson, Electronic Technology AAS degree. Leanne Nok Vu, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Brian H. Camerath, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Lee Van Theo, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Lard D. Severinsen, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Robert Timothy Carter, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Wayne Wood Christensen, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Dwayne E. Mills, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Clay S. Christensen, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Deborah Ann Grandstaff, Executive Secretary, Certificate.
Fernando Richardo Marta Carina, Electronic Technology AAS degree.
Denise Davies, Executive Secretary, Certificate.
Lynette Jean Richardson, Executive Secretary Certificate.
Judy L. Mary, Executive Secretary, Diploma.
Sharon Rose Potilla, Executive Secretary AAS degree.
Pamela Sue Williams, Executive Secretary, AAS degree.
Doris Vigil, Executive Secretary Certificate.
Sandra E. Lovelace, Executive Secretary, Certificate.
Randy Ray Heinerman, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Certificate.
Susan K. McFarland, Executive Secretary, Certificate.
Thomas E. Suey, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning certificate.
Jerry L. Wiseman, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
K.H. Wilkinson, food service certificate, AAS degree.
Robert Michael McNally, Food Service Certificate.
Kim Harris Mickelson, heavy duty mechanics, AAS degree.
Bjorn Ron Olson, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Stephen Lynn Baker, heavy duty mechanics, diploma.
Michael Ronald Cassingham, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Samuel John Gunderson, heavy duty mechanics, diploma.
Lynn Lloyd Marast, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Chris Lynn Spencer, heavy duty mechanics, diploma.
Kevin Lynn Andrews, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Pete J. Bubness, heavy duty mechanics, AAS degree.
Richard Brad Hardman, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Max Leroy Thompson, heavy duty mechanics, AAS degree.
Dave R. Bryant, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Victor Manuel Sisimbo, heavy duty mechanics, diploma.
Stephen Liwakeet, Heavy Duty Mechanics, Diploma.
Sherman Willis Harrop, heavy duty mechanics, diploma.
Timothy N. Albright, Auto Body Paint, Diploma.
Pamela Sayers, machine shop, certificate.
Janine Anderson, Business Management, Accounting Oriented, AAS degree. Transportation Management, AAS degree.
Roe B. Ring, Transportation Management, AAS degree.
Keith G. Austin, Machine Shop Certificate.
Cora Jeannie Van Ness, machine shop, certificate.
Allison M. L. Cole, Hotel Motel Management Certificate.
Iva Jean Pitcher, food service, certificate.
Emerson Bill, Machine Shop Certificate.
Floyd William Schweppe, machine shop, certificate.
Barbara Ann Usery, Operating Room Technician Certificate.
Nancy Stone Patrizzi, operating room technician, certificate.
Sandra Thiem Kazir, Operating Room Technician Certificate.
Janine Deanna Hardman, operating room technician, certificate.
Calvin Bruce Richardson, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Certificate.
Stephen Gordon, refrigeration and air conditioning, certificate.
Richard Eugene Sodders, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Certificate.
Jan Nielsen Purdy, refrigeration and air conditioning, certificate.
Larry Ben Hull, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Certificate.
Deborah Lynn Bickmore, operating room technician, certificate.
Claudia A. Balachek, Operating Room Technician Certificate.
John F. Lindblom, refrigeration and air conditioning, certificate.
Alice Annette Spencer Butcher, Operating Room Technician Certificate.
Nona Marie Moy Ola, operating room technician, certificate.
Diane Karen Straszewski, Operating Room Technician Certificate.
Rexalana Ann DeRose, operating room technician, certificate.
Dave M. Spainhour, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Certificate.
Jeffrey Brian Dean, refrigeration and air conditioning, certificate.
Ross Ruland Vale, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Gary Nils Pallison, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Dennis Ray Jensen, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Thomas Richard O'Brien, printing certificate.
Kathy Marie Wally, printing certificate.
Brady Ann Priest, printing certificate.
Keith W. Higgins, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Donald Mark James, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Scott L. Gardner, printing certificate.
Ivan Anderson, printing certificate.
Kenneth W. Boswell, printing certificate.
Blaine Craig Fallman, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Timothy S. Reynolds, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Charles Thad Torres, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Raymond Bruce Covington, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Robert John Wetzel, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
George F. Bloss, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Randy Lee Tussing, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Sam E. Pierce IV, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Wade G. Southam, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Charlene R. Higley, stenographer certificate.
Virginia Lynn Asher, stenographer certificate.
Peggy Lynn Tibbetts, stenographer certificate.
Elaine Gilly, stenographer certificate.
Glenn Dean Farrington Jr., refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Gary Jack Newman, refrigeration and air conditioning certificate.
Mark Nephi Castleberry, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
John T. Metcalf, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Arlene R. Husky, stenographer certificate.
Larry Ann Dietrich, stenographer certificate.
Suzette M. Burnson, stenographer certificate.
Wendell R. Barnes, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Evan Wilford Anderson, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
David Taylor Lindquist, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Catherine E. Fulton, stenographer certificate. Siosai Faupulu, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Mary Ann Pinkerton Hatton, stenographer certificate.
Roger Dean Jones, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Betty M. Tyner, stenographer certificate.
Brent Allen Olson, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Lloyd Franklin Hibbs, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Clinton Vaughn Godfrey, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Lloyd D. Anderson, welding, AAS degree.
Clark Bard Openshaw, welding diploma.
Richard Lamar Dillenbeck, welding diploma.
Larry Puvi Fono E. Moana, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Clarence Hoopy, recreational vehicle mechanics certificate.
Darwin Leroy Bills, welding AAS degree.
Kevin Truman Thomas, welding diploma.
Sylvia C. Sylvester, stenographer certificate.
Carmen Elisa Chiapa, clerk typist certificate.
Craig H. Mortensen, welding diploma.
Von Earl Barker, welding diploma.
Marcia Lynn Rouse, stenographer certificate.
Lisa Wright, stenographer certificate.
Linda Lorraine Anderton, stenographer certificate.
Cheryl Ann Warnick, stenographer certificate.
George Huey, welding diploma.
Lee Jack, welding diploma.
Christopher Nelts Peterson, transportation management certificate and AAS degree.
Ralph H. Freestone, welding diploma.
Michael James Swan, welding AAS degree.
Brent Butler, building construction, AAS degree.
Ned B. Davis, transportation management certificate and AAS degree.
Gregory Michael Osterkamp, welding diploma.
Craig D. Hendricks, welding AAS degree.
Lowell Grant Miller, transportation management certificate and AAS degree.
Cheryl Lee Harrison, accounting certificate.
Carol Lynn Johnson, accounting certificate, business management, accounting-oriented, AAS degree.
John Richard Losser, business management, accounting-oriented, AAS degree.
Scott Nettleship Brims, heavy-duty mechanics, diploma.
Charles Wade Little, certificate, accounting, associate degree, business management, supervision.
Michelle Duckworth, business management, ownership, associate degree.
Ronald Brent Osborne, marketing certificate.
Christopher Wentworth, electronic technology, associate degree.
Karen Baker, steno certificate.
Sherry Wahlberg Matthews, marketing certificate, business management, supervision degree.
Well, you're a great class, and we're proud of you. And now I wonder if those graduating today would like to express their appreciation to their families for the contributions that they have contributed toward your success this day. If you would, let's hear it. Now, of course, being graduates, I'd just like you to know that your names will be inscribed on the annals of this college, and the Alumni Association will remember you. Now, it's my honor as a final activity to give you a very brief final word. Would the graduates please stand? May I say to you graduates that your presence at Utah Technical College has added dignity to this institution. We salute you for your achievements, and we admonish you to remember the teachings and follow the example of your instructors. We have confidence in you and in your ability to succeed. We have done our best to transmit the knowledge and teach you the skills that will assist you in attaining the goals and objectives which you desire to accomplish in this life. We are proud to announce that you are graduates of Utah Technical College at Salt Lake. Congratulations to each one of you, On behalf of the faculty and the administration, I wish you all Godspeed. And will you now transfer your tassel from the left to the right side? And you may be seated. We would ask the audience to remain seated until after the recessional. The graduates will leave and they will obtain their certificates, diplomas, and degrees in the official capacity around the spectrum or the sports center here. We invite all of you following the exercises to participate in the refreshments that will be served around the outer circle. And for those of you in the audience who may not know where your graduate will be, you should be able to follow the signs. They will be around the sports center in areas labeled for automobile mechanics, or business occupations, and so forth. There are several areas in which they will be collecting their certificates, diplomas, and degrees, and there are several areas in which you may participate in our refreshments. We're delighted that you have been here with us this evening, and our benediction will now be offered by Michelle Duckworth.
Our dear Heavenly Father, at this time, we would like to give our thanks for the many blessings that we all enjoy. We are especially grateful for the free country we have to live in, which allows us the educational opportunities to choose and to pursue our interests. We now ask for thy blessings so we might become equal to the challenges which we face in the future. Help us to show our gratitude at this time to our instructors that give so much of themselves and their time to assist us in furthering our educational endeavors. We would also like to thank those who have spoken this evening and shared a little of their knowledge and experiences with us. May we remember to use what they have said as guidance to our future. Bless us to convey the love and the appreciation we feel to our families and friends for the support they have given to us in achieving this goal, and that they could share this graduation with us. Again, we give our thanks to thee and ask thy blessings to be with us, to remember at this time that this is not the end, but just the beginning of a continuous strive for knowledge. And we say these present blessings in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.